not only award season in the music industry, it's also award season in football. FIFA confirming the shortlist for the 2022 Best Player of the Year, with World Cup winner Lionel Messi leading the list that includes World Cup finalist and 2018 world champion Kylian Mbappe and the reigning Ballon d'Or recipient Karim Benzema. Now, on Thursday, FIFA confirmed the list for the best coach as Argentina's World Cup winning coach Lionel Scaloni, Carlo Ancelotti of Real Madrid and Manchester City's Pep Guardiola got the nod. Now, this means Morocco's Walid Regragui has been snubbed despite leading the Atlas Lions to their first ever semi-final, any African country's first ever World Cup semi-final. This also after Desiree Ellis was overlooked for the women's best coach despite leading Banyana Banyana to their first ever Africa Cup of Nations title. So let's unpack why we are overlooked as an African continent. We're joined by African football expert Oma Akautgba. A very good morning to you, Oma. Thank you so much for your time. That's my first question. Why doesn't FIFA like this continent?
Good morning. Well, it's difficult to say that FIFA does not like the continent. First and foremost, I like to put things into perspective. The award considers what happens between August 2021 and July 2022. And within this period, these three coaches won something. Pep Guardiola won the Premier League. Carlo Ancelotti won the Champions League with Real Madrid. And Lionel Scaloni won the World Cup. Now, here is where the confusion is. The World Cup was played outside of this period. And of course, Walid Regragui also, achieved this feat with Morocco outside of this same period. So if Lionel Scaloni can make the cut, why not Walid Regragui? But now the difference is the constant thing with these three coaches is that they won something. Walid did something. He didn't win any tournament, but he did something that has created so much excitement around the world because taking an underdog to the semi-final for many amounts to also winning something. I mean, it may not amount to winning the World Cup, but it amounts to winning something, because what he did was very spectacular. Now, coming to the question, I would also think that whatever coaches from the continent of Africa, whatever they do doesn't get enough attention and respect, perhaps because they are from Africa. I mean, talking now, to the question, because Walid Regragui also said it during the World Cup, during one of his presses, that African coaches are not respected, and he hoped that his achievement or his what he has done at the World Cup would earn respect for African coaches. But with the shortlist coming out, it seems that nothing has changed.
I know you're talking about the Premier League being won by Pep Guardiola, but then the Bundesliga will be saying, why don't then you put up Julian Nagelsmann? Serie A will be saying, okay, why then don't you put up the head coach of AC Milan? You see where I'm going with this, is that if you're going to take Pep Guardiola because you won the Premier League, why don't you take all the other top 5 leagues in the world to say that, well, why don't you shortlist them? Because that's all they did. They won the Premier League. Carlo Ancelotti won the Champions League. That's a bit of a big deal compared to what Pep Guardiola did. So a lot of people will probably be saying that this is basically just favoritism based off of his legacy. Is that what he could be riding on, Pep?
I mean, it's difficult to argue against that. Your question is very solid. And if you put that as an argument in court, the judge will be in serious trouble because it will be difficult to completely wish that away. Because if you put Pep Guardiola, what you are saying is the Premier League has more value than other leagues in Europe. And that is what it looks like, except that nobody is saying it expressly. Because many other coaches also won their their respective league titles. So why put in Pep Guardiola and ignore other coaches who won league titles? So it's a very strong argument, and I completely agree with you. And now here's the thing. The FIFA award itself is too, there's no clear-cut approach to how these coaches are selected. There's a lot of ambiguity in terms of, arriving at who should be in the final shortlist or not. And now here's why I think that you cannot really follow all of these criteria to the letter. It is voted by captains of national teams, coaches, selected journalists, and a few, number of football fans. These guys will consider first who is more popular to me, and then they will consider that person's achievement and put it above the other candidates who they seem not popular, and that is what is happening. It's more like a popularity contest because Pep Guardiola is the biggest club coach in the world, and the Premier League is the most popular league in the world. And if Lionel Scaloni can make it by his World Cup achievement, then why not Walid Regragui? But now the question is, who knows him? Who thinks about him? And that's because he's from Africa.
It's a fair point, but okay, fine. With the men, we can sort of see why the journalists and the other coaches and the captains might not think Walid is good enough for it because, again, like you did point out, he didn't even win the World Cup. He made history, but he didn't win the World Cup.
Yes.
But then
Exactly.
Desiree Ellis won the AFCON. Desiree Ellis led Banyana to their first AFCON title. Desiree Ellis is an African, she's a continental champion, and she's not in the running.
And now this is where it gets, very, very interesting. She's not in the shortlist. And when you look at the other three coaches, Wigan won the championship with England, the European Championship. Pastor won the Champions League for female with Lyon, and the Brazilian won the CONMEBOL Championship with Brazil. Now, what you're saying to me is that the CONMEBOL Championship, is bigger than the African Nation Cup. So it comes to the same point.
Yeah.
It's about who these people who are asked to vote think is popular and more interesting. They look at Brazil, big footballing nation.
Yeah.
They look at Lyon. This is one of the biggest female football teams in Europe. And then, of course, the England coach who won the European Championship with England. But I think that it should have been a close battle between the Brazilian coach and Desiree Ellis, because what she has done is incredible. She did not just make history. She won the African Championship for a South Africa that is not a superpower in football at all on the continent of Africa. And that should be given a serious consideration. And again, like I said, when these things are done by individuals, sentiment must absolutely, play a role. And that's what is happening. No one is following the rules or the criteria to the letter. And it's very, very unfortunate. I completely agree with you. I see your point, and I understand what you meant by your first question, that why is Africa not respected? This is a sign of absolute disrespect for the continent of Africa and whatever is happening within it.
Okay, so we've discussed all of this. You and I, as Africans, have put our hearts out. We have told FIFA where to get off. We've told Gianni Infantino that he doesn't like us, and maybe we don't like him back, but we'll definitely still ask him for more spots in the World Cup for years to come. Let's look at who's going to win what. So we've got Pep Guardiola, Carlo Ancelotti, and of course, you've got Lionel Scaloni. He's won the World Cup. Carlo's won the Champions League. Pep Guardiola's got a legacy. I mean, come on, Manchester City are winning the Premier League for fun at this point, so he really can't be the man that could potentially take this title. So I would say it's between Scaloni and Ancelotti. Who takes it?
Of course, Scaloni will win it because he won the World Cup. The World Cup is the biggest football event in the world. It's very symbolic, and the way he won it with a set of players who were hitherto unknown. And then he created a very powerful group, building a team around Lionel Messi. I think that Scaloni should win it, and I think he would win it.
So that essentially answers my next question. Lionel Messi is going to be the 2022 FIFA the best men's player of the year, yes?
Yes, because he found his way into the shortlist. And if you put Messi, because of his World Cup achievement, there's no way you can ignore him. He did the most important thing in football. At 35, led Argentina to win their third World Cup, winning his first World Cup in his career, basically completing football and becoming the best player of the tournament. Hey, you can't never look beyond Lionel Messi. Messi will win this one. I know people will say, the World Cup was played outside of the June, August, and July period. But hey, Lionel Scaloni also won the best coach of the year by winning the World Cup. So you can't look beyond Messi.